Hey people, John here from Fast Films, and today we're going to go through a 2021 drama horror thriller movie called Fear of Rain. The movie opens with a young woman, Rain, running through the woods. As she stops to take her breath, an unknown man appears behind her and drags her away. The man digs a grave for Rain. Just as he starts burying Rain, the scene cuts to black. The next scene reopens with Rain being held down by nurses and doctors on a hospital bed. Rain is tied to the bed as she struggles to break free. A sedative is then applied to calm her and put her to sleep. A close look at Rain's body indicates that she has been hurting herself. Soon afterward, Rain wakes up and sees her father, John, having a conversation with a doctor. The doctor tells John that what happened to Rain regularly happens to patients suffering from schizophrenia. The doctor proposes that Rain is sent to a psychiatric hospital so she can get better, but John refuses. While the conversation goes on, Rain's mother, Michelle, informs John that Rain is awake. John runs over and strokes her daughter's hair to make her feel comfortable. Moments later, Rain tells the nurses that she tends to be calmer when she is painting. She then tells the nurses to get some drawing pencils. Later on, Rain attends a therapy session with her therapist, Dr. Ellen Pangloss. Dr. Ellen asks Rain how her last psychotic episode went, and Rain tries to describe it as simply as she can. Dr. Ellen asks if Rain is taking her medication, and she says no. She tells Rain that one more psychotic episode and the state will automatically institutionalize her. Ellen urges her to always take her medication to avoid such. Days later, Rain is discharged from the hospital. Upon arriving home, their next-door neighbor, who is also Rain's teacher at school, Danny McConnell, welcomes them. Rain enters her room and sees all the damage she caused during her episode. John comes in to assure her that he'll fix everything. He then tells Rain that she can sleep in the guest room in the meantime. The next morning, John is seen preparing breakfast while Rain prepares for school. He talks about how worried he is that Rain is returning to school. After assuring her father that she is fine, Rain leaves for school. At school, while Rain sorts her locker, her pills fall from her bag, drawing the attention of all the students around. Shortly afterward, Rain attends her lectures and sees a new student, Caleb, in class. During lunch, Rain tries to sit down with her friends, but they don't allow her. Rain then decides to eat her lunch outside the school. As she is about to start eating, Caleb arrives and tries to start a conversation with Rain. He shows Rain some card tricks, but she soon stands up to leave because she isn't sure if Caleb is real or if he's just a figment of her imagination. After school, Rain visits the store to pick up her prescription. She runs into Danny, but she refuses to talk to her. Rain gets her stuff and leaves the store immediately. While walking home, she gets a quick hallucination, and this prompts her to quickly take her medication the moment she gets home. Later that night, Rain is standing by her window when she sees a young girl standing in Danny's attic. Before having a better look, Michelle opens the door. She then asks her mother if she just heard a scream, but Michelle says no. Michelle asks how Rain's day at school was, and she tells her mother that everyone looks at her differently now. Rain informs her mother that only painting takes away what she is feeling. She then decides to draw a painting for her mother. The following day, Rain tries to talk to her best friend, but she ignores her. Caleb then approaches her and offers to take her home. As the duo travels in Caleb's car, Rain starts falling, and Caleb has to pull over because his car's wiper is damaged. While sitting down and waiting for the rain to stop, Rain starts acting weird because she's uncomfortable. After the rain has stopped, Caleb drops Rain at home and the duo say goodbye. Later that day, John tells Rain that he has to go out. Michelle then comes into Rain's room and Rain tells her that she met a boy. During the night, Rain screams from her sleep, causing her parents to rush into the room. Rain informs them that there's a little girl in Danny's home and she's asking for help. John argues that Danny doesn't have kids, but assures Rain that they'll check it out in the morning. The following morning, Rain and John visit Danny's home. John informs Danny what Rain said, and Danny is surprised. Danny tells John that the duo is welcome to check her attic to prove that she is innocent. John, Rain, and Danny enter the attic but find no sign of any girl. However, they see various dolls lying around. Danny says the dolls were for her late grandmother. John thanks Danny for her cooperation and promises not to disturb her again. Upon getting home, Rain starts arguing with her father. She claims that John doesn't believe her, and John says nothing out of the ordinary is happening in Danny's house. Rain starts crying, and John has to get close to her in order to comfort her. He explains that if Danny files charges against her, she'll be institutionalized, and he doesn't want that for her. The next day, Rain visits Dr. Allen's office. While waiting for her appointment, she picks up her phone and searches online for missing girls. During her session with Dr. Allen, Rain explains everything happening to her. Dr. Allen tells her that what she said is a serious accusation and the authorities won't take it as a hallucination if Danny decides to file charges. Rain tries to argue that what she felt and saw was real. Dr. Allen asks Rain if it's possible that she is only projecting her own fears. After taking a long and hard thought about it, Rain says there's a possibility of that. Up next, Rain decides to take a step back on her accusations. One morning before going to school, she makes breakfast for her parents. At school, Rain gets freaked out when everyone is looking at her and she runs outside. She gets outside and sees cops. She starts getting scared, but Caleb arrives and says the cops are not for her. Caleb tells her that the cops are probably on patrol. Rain argues that Danny might have called the cops on her because of her allegations towards her. After school, Caleb drives Rain over to her house. The duo breaks into Danny's home and Rain notices that the basement door is now locked. Before they can go through the house, Danny arrives home, but the duo manage to escape without her noticing. Meanwhile, John is fixing up Rain's room. That night, Rain and Michelle talk about whether Caleb is real or not. The next day, Caleb and Rain decide to spend some time together. The duo visit the aquarium together to have some fun. Afterward, Caleb takes Rain to the school library so they can go through the cases of missing girls using the school's computer. After some minutes of doing so, Rain sees a girl, Malia, who matches the girl she saw in Danny's attic. Rain tells Caleb to get Malia's parents' contact information so she can call them. Rain then steps outside and sees one of her classmates crying. She tries to comfort her, but the girl takes it the wrong way and she screams at Rain. Rain feels embarrassed and goes outside to wait for Caleb in the parking lot. Caleb arrives and Rain says she understands if Caleb doesn't want to be friends with her anymore. However, Caleb tells her that he adores her more. Later that day, Rain arrives home and sees her mother lying on the couch. She goes over to her mother and tells her to go out more. Just then, John runs over and informs Rain that he has a surprise for her. Rain follows John, and John informs Rain that he is done renovating her room. Rain takes a walk around the room and tells her father that she would like to still remain in the guest room for now. During the night, she wakes up and sees her mother crying. Rain then promises her mother to be better. The next scene shows Rain in school. Danny distributes the students' test papers for them, and when Caleb makes a point about it, no one reacts to his comments. This gives Rain the idea that Caleb is not real. Rain then decides to avoid Caleb all day. That night, Caleb visits Rain and enters her room through her window. Rain tells Caleb that she is avoiding him because he isn't real. While the duo is talking, they hear screams from Danny's house and Rain decides to check it out. Caleb tells Rain that they can enter the house through the garage, but when he breaks the garage window, Danny shows up and the duo run away. Moments later, Danny arrives at Rain's house with the cops. She tells John to warn Rain to stay away from her. Danny threatens to file charges if John doesn't get Rain under control. John gets angry and confronts Rain about the matter. He insists that she takes a dose of her medication. Rain taunts him by shoving several of her pills in her mouth. John tries to force her to spit them out, but she bites his finger and John slaps her. John apologizes to her, but Rain says it's not enough. The next day, Rain informs Caleb that it's possible the authorities lock her away because Danny would file charges. Later that evening, Caleb visits Rain at home, and Rain says she has to save Malia or else Danny would terminate her to get rid of any evidence. Moments later, the duo sit down on the couch to play some cards and they share a kiss in the process. Just then, Michelle walks down the stairs and surprises them. Michelle confirms that Caleb is real and leaves. Just then, Caleb leaves abruptly. The following morning, Rain arrives at school and discovers that Caleb is absent. She then gets the idea that Caleb has made up his mind and starts having a mental breakdown. She quickly leaves school to see Dr. Allen, but her security informs Rain that she's not around. Rain returns home and suffers a total mental breakdown. Michelle approaches her and tries to comfort her, but Rain screams at her. Just then, John enters the room and tells Rain that there is something he has to tell her. John informs Rain that her mother died 3 years ago and her presence has been Rain's imagination this whole time. He says he didn't want to tell her before because seeing Michelle makes Rain happy, and he doesn't want that to go away. Feeling unstable, Rain runs away from home when John tries to dial 911 and breaks into Danny's home. Rain searches through the attic and has a vision of her mother. She converses with her mother's spirit, and that gives her some clarification. Minutes later, Danny arrives home and drops her keys on the table. Rain then silently steals the keys without Danny noticing and unlocks the basement door. Rain then finds Malia locked in a cage in the basement. Just then, Rain hears Danny coming down to the basement and decides to hide in the cage with Malia. However, Danny finds them there. Danny tells Rain she wants to help her and will not report her to the police. She informs Rain that Malia is not real. Rain does not know what to believe, but at that moment, Caleb appears and holds down Danny, giving Rain and Malia a chance to escape. John arrives and confirms to Rain that Malia is real and she was right all along. Caleb then emerges from the garage and is also confirmed to be real. Later on, Rain is recovering and she isn't having many hallucinations like before because the medication is now working. She and John visit Michelle's grave. Upon arriving home, Rain tells her father that she's ready to move back into her room. The movie comes to an end with Rain lying down on her bed and her mother appearing behind her and assuring her that she'll always be with her. Thanks for watching, guys.